Okay, so this ghost story is called the Jack-o'-lantern Killer, and basically it's told in the story is told in the story by three young boys that are brothers camping in a tent in their backyard, trying to spook each other. And this is a good story if you're around a campfire on Halloween. So how it goes is there's three brothers in this tent. And they're going to tell the story, and the brothers' names are Bill, Bob, and Brian. And Bill, he starts it off. He says, "Listen, guys, everyone be quiet. I want to tell you guys the story that's supposedly happened around this area about 15 years ago. And he was called the Jack-o'-lantern Killer. He's supposedly arrested now, but he might be around our yard watching this." And how it went was about 15 years ago, he went around. He was killing people. He killed people. I'd say about 30 years ago, but about 15 years ago, a group of boys. They was all in their teen years in high school, and one Halloween weekend they was going to go paintballing in the woods. So they was telling the story at night. They was going to go paintballing in the woods, and they was telling the story about the jack-o'-lantern killer, about how he killed people, and he would wear jack-o'-lanterns on his face. But when he would kill people, he would carve their face like a pumpkin after he got done killing them. And these paintballers, they're like telling the story, and they're like, "Yeah, but I don't believe everything is all fake." So they go out in the woods playing paintball on Halloween night, and everything's going good for the first hour or so. They're all having fun shooting each other, playing paintball. When they split up to be teams, when two guys decided that they was going to go out on their own and they was going to leave the rest of the team, and they had their walkie-talkies and stuff, they went out on their own when they kept hearing these noises, and they looked behind them and they saw the jack-o'-lantern killer standing there in a long jacket ripped up with a jack-o'-lantern on his face, and he had a big kitchen carving knife, and he attacked and killed both of those two boys. And when he killed them, he carved a pumpkin in their face and hung them up in the middle of the woods, hanging to where the rest of their friends went and found them. When the rest of the friends went and found them, they got all scared and they couldn't get out of the woods in enough time. And right when he says that, that's when Bob comes in and says, no, that's not how it went. It went like, they was, out in the woods, and they kept finding these jack-o'-lanterns that was carved laying around, and they was like, maybe they're just putting these here to scare us. So they started smashing them as they went across them and shooting them with their paintball guns. And when they smashed one of them, blood came out of it, and he picked up the pumpkin with the blood in it, and he started getting all scared, so he started running, and as he ran, he tripped over a stick, and when he tripped over the stick, he saw the jack-o'-lantern killer walking at him, and the jack-o'-lantern killer grabbed him by his neck and started choking him, and while he was choking him, he was carving his face, and carved his face alive, and then sent him running back into, he was alive, he could see and everything still, but he was dying because his face had just been carved, and he went running back to the group of paintballers with his face carved, and the rest of the group of paintballers, they decided they want to be badasses and go and find the killer who did this to him. They was going to take him out with their paintball guns. So they went out in the woods looking for him, and they could just find all these smashed pumpkins, but they was like, well, let's follow this trail of all these pumpkins. So they started following all these jack-o'-lantern pumpkins, and they found this little, like, ditch, and the ditch had a bloody knife and a pumpkin laying in it and a bunch of skin from human flesh. So they went down there and they started looking around this area. When about 20 feet away, they saw this man in a long robe and a jack-o'-lantern just walked by, and they was too afraid to do anything. He just walked right across, right in front of them, and one of them started shooting his paintball gun at him, and he hit him, and the jack-o'-lantern killer turned around and looked at him, and all of the boys took off running. They're scared to death, they're running for their lives, and then they all got back together, and they was like, we gotta get out of these woods, we gotta get the police down here, one of our friends is already dead, and there's a killer out here looking for us. So they took off into their woods. They took off to the woods trying to find a way out, and that's when the story was interrupted by the younger brother, and he says, I think the way the story went was that was how it went, but as they took off running, one of them tripped, and everyone else kept running, and he was stuck there by himself, and he had glasses, so he couldn't see because his glasses fell off. So he was trying to walkie-talkie his friends to come back and help him, but he couldn't get a hold of anyone because they was all running scared. So, he was trying to walkie-talkie them and they wouldn't listen. He couldn't really see where he was going. And he kept, because he's all blurry without his glasses, and from a little bit behind, he kept seeing this jack-o'-lantern guy, and he thinks it's him, but he can't tell how far away he is because he doesn't have his glasses on. And the killer is getting closer. And he doesn't know when the killer is going to be right there or not. And all of a sudden, he gets stabbed in the stomach. And as he's getting stabbed and the knife's going through, he reaches up and knocks the jack-o'-lantern's mask off, the pumpkin off of his head, and he sees what his face looks like. And before he can say anything, he gets like a pumpkin carver thing they used to get the guts out carved into his eye. And then he falls down dead. And the jack-o'-lantern killer carves the boy's face, and then it goes to the group of all the paintballers. And the oldest brother, he says, "I'll take it from here." And he's like, well, all the paintballers were sitting there scared. They're like, where's he at? Now we lost another one of our friends. He's gone. They're like, it looks like you tried walking and talking us a bunch. And they're like, I'm not going back and look for him. For our luck, he's dead. And then one of the guys is like, I'm not leaving him here. He must still be alive. So he's like, okay, fine. You want to go look for him? Go ahead. And he goes, no, none of you guys are going to come with me? And they're like, nope. So he's like, well, fine. I'll go up by myself. So he starts walking out, and, he's looking, and when he gets out there, he finds an eyeball laying there covered in blood, and he realizes that's his friend's eye, and he sees the glasses covered in blood, so he's like, he's dead. So he starts running back, and as he starts running, he runs into the jack-o'-lantern killer, and the jack-o'-lantern killer grabs him by his neck and slowly takes the knife and slits a bunch of slits in his throat to where his throat getting slit and gushing blood out. And he died, and then he carved his face, and the rest of the paintballers there's only 4 left, and they're in a group like, I don't know where everyone else is at, they're all probably dead now. And then he throws the boy's body in between all of them. And all of the paintballers at this point they just started rapidly firing their paintballs all over the place. And then they heard it hit someone, and he went, because it hurt a little bit. And they look, and they see the jack-o'-lantern killer standing there. So they all took off, they all split up, and one of them kind of got lost, and he didn't know where he was going, and he kept hearing footsteps, and he's like, guys, is that one of you guys? Are you guys out there? And he's like, if you move, I'll shoot you, I swear. Like, talk, this isn't funny. And then he hears someone breathing behind him, and he turns around, and there's the jack-o'-lantern killer, and the jack-o'-lantern killer grabs him by his neck and starts choking him, and he kicks the jack-o'-lantern killer, and the jack-o'-lantern killer lets go, and he takes off running, and while he's running, he thinks he's going to get away. A throwing knife, comes right through the back of his neck and out, and he falls down. And then it goes to another one of the boys who's sitting there walking, and he accidentally stepped on a bear trap, because apparently there were some hunters out in these woods, and they put a bear trap up. And he's laying there screaming, someone help me, he's screaming as loud as he can. And he sees the jack-o'-lantern killer walking towards him, and he's like, please don't hurt me and all this. Then he sees the jack-o'-lantern killer pick up a stick. The jack-o'-lantern killer goes over there to the stick and just starts beating his leg that's in the trap until his leg breaks off. And then the boy starts crawling, and his legs are all shredded up and gushed out, bleeding. And the jack-o'-lantern killer comes up behind the back of his head with a stick and hits the back of his head real hard and knocks him out. And then he takes the knife and slams it to the back of his neck. And then it goes to the 2 other boys that actually met up, and they're like, we got to get out of here. And they start running, and they finally see their car, and they see that they're almost out. So they take off running to get to their car, and one of them trips and starts rolling down the hill, and he's like, help, help. And the guy's like, fuck you. And the other one takes off running, gets to the car, and it goes to the paintballer that tripped and started falling down the hill. And when he rode into the bottom, and when he got up, he saw the jack-o'-lantern killer standing right next to him. So he punches the jack-o'-lantern killer, and it cracks the jack-o'-lantern he's got. So the jack-o'-lantern killer stops to reach over and grab another jack-o'-lantern that's nearby. And the paintballer runs up and gets in the car, and they're trying to start the car, but the car won't start. And then they see the jack-o'-lantern killer walking up the hill. So they're like, screw this, let's just get out of the car and take off on foot. So they're running, and as they start to run, one of them trips, and the one that trips hurt his ankle real bad, so he couldn't run anymore. And the jack-o'-lantern killer came up behind him and killed him, but the one boy got away, and he told the story, and the story is supposedly the one that got away came back and told the police and stuff, and the police went there the next day, or an hour later, and they found all the bodies and everything, but they never found the jack-o'-lantern killer. So then it goes to the 3 boys in the tent, and they're all like, he was never found, so we don't know if he's been out living in the woods, and he's like, living off of dead animals, and he's still out there and could be around us right now or not. And then out of nowhere, they see a knife carve the face of a jack-o'-lantern into their tent, and they look out the holes. They don't see anything, and then they see their tent door slowly unzip, and as they look, they see the jack-o'-lantern killer standing there in the doorway, and then the story ends.